welcome to this segment of UE TV, where we highlight various accomplishments of our university students. I'm your host Sinead Mohammed, and today we are highlighting Thesis students from the academic year 2020-2021. With us we have a group of researchers who call themselves Caribbean Matters. Welcome guys.
Thank you for having us.
On set we have Talia Jocelyn, Daniel St. Louis, Alex Charles, Victoria Waterman Ali, and Carice Gabriel. Now guys, I must say that I have reviewed your proposal and I find your topic to be very interesting. Your topic seeks to investigate if dancehall music affects the perceptions of Trinbagonian students living on SAL Hall, and if the perceptions that they have on Jamaicans living at SAL Hall as well. So tell me more about your objectives of this study.
Right, so what was important to us was finding out if dancehall music is what contributes to the perceptions and the treatment of Jamaican students by Trinbagonian students at SAL Hall. So we also analyzed the way in which dancehall music influences the relationship that the Jamaican students have with the Trinbagonian students on SAL Hall. And then we examined how Jamaicans are portrayed through the lyrical content in dancehall music. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm looking at your proposal. I'm seeing that research was done in previous studies as it pertains to the effects of music in affecting perception. It points to a particular study done on Trinidad by Javan Wateka 2014, which shows that dancehall music can affect the perception of Trinidadian males in creating a social identity. Now tell me more about other previous research done as it pertains to the effects of music in addition to its relevance to your study.
Now, while we were looking at our previous research, there were numerous themes popping up, and violence was one of the more prevalent ones. And as we know, music in general can have an effect on our general mood and our thoughts. And this is supported by various studies with regards to the effects of different genres of music on individuals. And according to the Journal of Social Psychology, violent music could incite aggressive thoughts and feelings. And in that same journal, 5 experiments were conducted with 75 female and 70 male college students, where the students that listened to violent music felt more hostile than those who listened to non-violent music from the same artist and style.
Later on in 2011, researchers at the University of Groningen conducted a study where 43 students listened to happy or sad music. And the task of identifying happy or sad faces. When the happy music played, more happy faces were spotted. When the sad music played, more sad faces were spotted. The researchers concluded that this could be perceptual decision on our sensory stimuli. In this case, the facial expressions are directly influenced by our state of mind.
Okay. Now, your proposal points to the theme of sexual vulgarity. Mind telling me more on this?
Yes, so sexual vulgarity, that was another prevalent theme that came out of dancehall music. And in 2004, a Jamaican author and literacy scholar, Caroline Cooper, she stated that women in dancehall music are portrayed as mindless bodies, and that's mainly for the sexual objectification by men. Yeah.
Yes, and Donna Hope, another Jamaican author, she mentioned that in dancehall music, there is a heavy emphasis on overt descriptions and depictions of sex, female sexuality, and sex organs. And our study confirmed this because there were many connotations of sex and sexual vulgarity in the dancehall lyrics that we quoted.
Wow. So, apart from violence and sexual vulgarity, are there any other themes that emerge?
Yes, so another main theme addressed the issue of oppression, where studies such as Noel 2009 looked at how perceptions could affect the way Black low-class millennials view themselves, and how those perceptions left them feeling devalued and led to them being racially discriminated against in a system where their path to upward social mobility wasn't the same as their peers.
Wow. Now guys, in any academic research, a critical analysis of theories relevant to your research is important. Your proposal points to 2 theories, the uses and classification theory and the Stuart Hall's reception theory. Now, I'm seeing here that the uses and gratification theory by Elaine Rucat studies the way the media affects persons in terms of satisfying their needs. Why was this theory chosen in relation to your study?
So this theory was selected to examine the motivations behind dancehall music consumption, and it revealed to us the reasons as to why the Jamaican SAL Hall students were perceived a certain way by the Trinbagonian SAL Hall residents, and this in turn affected the way that the Jamaican students were treated. And this theory states that people use the media to satisfy various needs, such as cognitive, personal, social, and affective needs.
Okay, and what about the Stuart Hall's reception theory?
Yes, so that theory was applied to this study as it provided us with a theoretical perspective on assessing how the perceptions of Jamaican students are formulated by the Trinbagonian students at SAL Hall, through the lyrics in dancehall music.
Yes, and Stuart Hall's theory would have looked at three main positions that audiences take when they interpret information, which were dominant, negotiated, and oppositional positions. So for our study, the dominant position was used to show how Trinbagonian students would have accepted the messages and interpreted it as originally intended. The negotiated position would have been used to show how Trinbagonian students, they partly accepted the messages, but they explained it from their own perspective, and the oppositional position was used to understand how Trinbagonian students, how they would have rejected the messages and interpreted it differently from what was originally intended.
Interesting information here, guys. Now, I'm looking at your 4 research questions on screen, and I know in your proposal, it was suggested that the use of online structured interviews you guys would use. Tell me, why would this method specifically chosen?
So we did online structured interviews with participants over the course of a week, and it was conducted via the online meeting app Zoom, and it was hosted by 2 of our group members on behalf of the group. And they would have asked the participants a total of 10 open-ended questions related to our research questions. And one fun fact is that there were 425 Trinbagonian students living on SAL Hall before the university closed because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Right.
And we needed to narrow down our research. We needed to narrow down our participants for the research, in fact, down to Trinbagonian students who would have interacted with Jamaican SAL Hall students. And to do this, we used a sample size calculator, and based on that calculation, we found that out of 425 students, we were supposed to conduct interviews with 203 students. But that wasn't possible because we reached out to the SAL Hall manager to obtain students for the study, and he wasn't able to respond to us.
So, seeing that the SAL Hall manager did not respond, how did you guys go about your sample selection?
And well, this was one of the limitations that we faced because at the very last minute we had to change the sampling technique. So we switched to a non-probability sampling method, and non-probability is basically the sampling is based on the expertise of the researchers. So snowballing, which is the method that we chose, that is basically made up of chain referrals, and that was the most effective because the participants were identified and selected based on the criteria to which they were related to the interests of our study. So what we did, we reached out to students who we knew stayed at SAL Hall during the 5-year period up until COVID, and they were asked to refer us to their fellow SAL friends. So we got 9 Trinbagonian participants from SAL Hall, and we basically conducted a 15-minute interview with them, and then we provided them with a consent book via email.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, how did you guys go about your selection of songs as well as your data analysis?
Well, the platform that we used to select the songs was a website by the name of Rhythms World. And we chose it because it's very informative and it's actually updated on a daily. This is a website that boasts of having over 14,000 of the top hits, and it has a growing following of over 70,000. It has been in existence for well over 10 years, and now browsers are able to not only receive updates with regards to music, but also Jamaican news. So what we did is we looked into the database, we searched for dancehall songs within the last 5 years, and we got a list of the songs with the top rhythms. We then chose an album that related to our themes and randomly selected 3 songs from that album. And with regards to our data analysis, we chose a qualitative approach to the study, so we used content analysis to analyze our data. And we did the same thing with regards to our interview and the songs. We transcribed the information, we created a manual code list, and then together as a team, we went through line by line and highlighted the recurring themes popping up.
Wow, definitely a lot of work in that.
Yeah.
Now, guys, with any research, ethics is definitely important. What were your ethical considerations as it pertains to this study?
In order to protect the integrity and validity of this research, several ethical considerations were made. Firstly, interviewees were given a consent form where they were debriefed about the study. Secondly, researchers made every effort to ensure respondents' confidentiality. And lastly, the data collected will not be falsified to support our hypothesis.
Okay, great. Now, guys, here's the part I'm interested in, your findings. Did dancehall music affect the perceptions of Trinbagonian students living at SAL Hall on Jamaican students who live there as well?
So based on the findings from the interviews, the interviewees mentioned that 100% of them said that, dancehall music did not affect the way that they think of Jamaicans, and this is at the point of their initial introduction, right? And this could be supported by most of the responses from the participants from the interviews.
Yes, I'm seeing on screen one of the participants said that their perception actually opened up after having conversation with the Jamaicans.
Yeah, and it could be further explained using Shortall's reception theory. And as Daniel mentioned earlier, the theory states that the audience can interpret messages in either a dominant position where the Trinbagonian residents at SAL, they would have been fans of dancehall music. So regardless of what the Jamaican students did or say, dancehall artists say that the Jamaican men are very violent and the women are sexual, so that's what they think of them. Right. And there's a negotiated position where even though they listen to dancehall music, they still give the Jamaican students a chance to prove themselves outside of what the lyrics say and outside of what Jamaican culture is known for. And then there's the oppositional position where I would say that's the position that the Trinbagonian students at SAL took, because they didn't allow the dancehall music to affect or influence the way that they think of the Jamaicans. They basically had their own judgments aside of what the dancehall music said.
Right. Now, I'm looking at figure 1, which I'm seeing here is labeled treatment of Jamaicans. Tell me more about the findings of this graph.
Okay, so here is showing is that 55% of the interviewees said that the Jamaicans were treated positively, 33% of the interviewees didn't quite answer the question, and 11% were neutral in their response. So no one actually said that the Jamaicans were treated negatively. The findings are basically showing that no discrimination took place. In fact, the Jamaicans were actually welcomed and treated like everyone else. But it's interesting to note that many of the interviewees, they mentioned mass media and how it could affect our perceptions of Jamaicans. And one of them actually said that the mass media could be very influential in the way that we view Jamaicans, because they could basically say anything and the ignorant would believe it. So because of these results, it's showing and it's kind of spearheading research that we could do to further understand the extent to which the mass media can affect our perceptions of Jamaicans.
Seeing that no form of discriminatory attitudes was shown towards the Jamaicans at that point in time, I'm interested in the findings for figure 2, which talks about the attitudes of Trinbagonian students and interactions as well on with Jamaicans.
So based on this diagram shown, 56% of the respondents stated that dancehall music did not influence their interactions with the Jamaican SAL Hall students. And this was reflected in some of the interviewees' responses. One person said, "For me, it hasn't really influenced anything. I will talk to you once you respect me. Music has really influenced my interactions with the Jamaican SAL Hall students. And on screen we have additional responses to that question in direct quotations.
Some interesting responses here.
Yeah, and in our study, 44% of respondents stated that dancehall music actually shaped their interactions with Jamaican students in a positive way. Like one of the interviewees said, it opens up a gateway for conversations with the Jamaican SAL Hall students. And as you can see, this can be linked to the uses and gratifications theory. And based on this interviewee's response, it can be noted that he uses the dancehall music to satisfy social needs. And in the uses and gratifications theory, it states that people use media to satisfy various needs, one of which includes social needs.
Right, I now understand that. So I'm looking at the graph on screen, and your proposal intended to answer the question, how does the lyrical content portray Jamaicans? So help me analyze this graph. Is it that I'm seeing 56% of your interviewees said that Jamaicans are portrayed sexually through the lyrical content of dancehall music?
Yes, and those persons would have stated that the lyrics are vulgar and they speak about women provocatively, which supported this study done by Walker 2009, which stated that dancehall songs such as Side Chick song by Shenseea, they openly speak about sex, which is responsible for the perceptions that are formed of Jamaicans, and in this case, how they are portrayed sexually in the lyrics of dancehall songs.
Right, and I'm also noting that 33% was portrayed as violent.
Yes, and those persons would have stated that Jamaicans, they think it's acceptable to kill others, which supported the study done by Paul 2004 this time, which looked at how Jamaicans are mainly associated with gun culture and numerous shootings. And what's so interesting about these findings is that it coincided with the findings for the content analysis of the 3 chosen dancehall songs that we looked at for this study, which revealed that main themes such as sexual vulgarity and violence come out of those songs, and sexually explicit lyrics appeared 32 times, whereas violent lyrics would appear 37 times.
Right. So what about your 11%? Is it that they didn't, I'm seeing unanswered, they didn't answer the question?
Yes, and that would have indicated that the characteristics associated with violence and sexuality, they don't necessarily reflect the views of all respondents in the study, because like we're seeing from the pie chart, 11% of persons didn't answer the question.
Right. So and some interesting information here, guys. But I'm looking at your another graph on screen. I'm seeing your 3 chosen dancehall songs. Tell me, how did you guys go about analyzing these songs in relation to, I'm seeing, is it themes on the chart?
So we did a line by line analysis where each line of the 3 songs was counted and examined by themes. After analyzing the 3 songs, it was found that the theme of sexual vulgarity appeared a total of 32 times. Secondly, the analysis showed that there were 37 times that the theme of violence was depicted. Lastly, the theme of oppression was counted 32 times in total.
Okay, well, teams, I must say that this was an interesting research. Your findings show that dancehall music did not affect the perceptions of Trinbagonians on Jamaicans living at SAL Hall as well. However, what we did see is that possibly the mass media can influence perceptions. Seeing that this is an exploratory research and your proposal points to not much academic research being done in the area, I think this would inspire further research in the area of communications, you know?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
further research can be done as it pertains to how the mass media, what type of mass media influences persons' perceptions on Jamaicans. Guys, thank you for the research. Thank you, viewers. Well done.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.